Goku and Superman. They're more alike than you'd think. If you watched my last video, I listed some details, and today I'm going to continue with more reasons as to why they're similar and also touch on how they're different. First, I'm surprised I didn't mention this in the first video, but one key difference is that Superman draws his power from the sun, while Goku draws his power from the moon. Superman needs to absorb the sun to absorb solar radiation, increasing his power. Goku, as long as he has his tail, can use the moon to transform into a great ape, or the Uzaru form, increasing his power. Of course, he hasn't done this in many years, but it's still a point worth mentioning. Action Comics issue 1054 shows Superman surrounded by an avatar that looks like himself. Many fans have commented on this, saying that it looks like Goku's key avatar he utilized when he fought against Tomorrow. Action Comics issue 1054 reveals this avatar is done due to a power surge with a War World mineral called Genesis, kind of similar to Goku's power surge he received from his allies in Oob donating their ki before he could form his own avatar. And it's also worth noting that at the time, many people compared Goku's ki avatar to an ability used by Sasuke in Naruto, with them saying they ripped it off, which, if you look, it pretty much looks like that, so I'll leave you to be the judge on that one. Another similarity between the two is evil doppelgangers. For Goku, he met an evil Kai from another universe named Zamasu, or Zamas, who took his body in another timeline and called himself Goku Black. And of course, if you're on this channel, you know who Goku Black is. Superman has had several evil doppelgangers, but if we're getting specific with alternate universe doppelgangers, we can mention Ultraman, who was the Kal-El in another universe who grew up to be a really bad guy. That's still not the same as possessing your body in another universe, and Superman has had his body possessed several times, so I'm sure he's had it possessed in another universe as well, so you could call that an evil doppelganger as well. Some people might have used Injustice Superman as an example of an evil version of yourself from another universe, but he's evil, yes, but he's more morally gray than truly evil like Ultraman is. So that's why I used Ultraman as the example there. The next point I want to raise is they both had several people in their lives who survived or evaded the destruction of their planets. And stay with me here, this is going to get a little dicey. I touched on this in the last video when talking about Krypton versus planet Vegeta, and I'll explain it more here. For Superman, depending on which continuity you follow, he was the last son of Krypton until Zod, Ursa, and Non escaped their Phantom Zone prison and attacked Superman. Superman also turned out to have a cousin, Kara Zor-El, or Supergirl, who landed on Earth years after him. There's also the Bottle City of Kandor, as well as the Philosians, who recently we found out ended up on Warworld. If you want to count half Kryptonians, there's also Superman's clone Connor Kent, who is half Clark Kent and half Lex Luthor. Actually, there's a pretty good animated movie that would go into that. I think it's The Reign of the Superman. It's part 2. You got to watch Death of Superman and then Reign of the Superman. If you haven't read the comics or anything, and you're like, where is that story? I want to know that. I think DC animated movies are a good entry point for people who don't know much about DC. You can watch the movies and use that to fill in your gaps in knowledge, and then you can read the comics. That's how I would do it. That's how I would suggest people do it. Anyway, another half Kryptonian is his son, John. There's also animals from Krypton, such as Krypto, who survived. There's other survivors in comics over the years, but we don't really have the time to get into all that. Just what I said is the most notable. For Goku, he really didn't know he was an alien until the Saiyan saga, when his brother came to Earth. So Superman was the last son of Krypton until he found other survivors, while Goku, he wouldn't really call himself the last son of planet Vegeta, because he didn't even know he was from planet Vegeta, and by the time he figured out, he met his brother, so obviously he's not the last son. So yeah, he didn't know he was an alien until the Saiyan saga when his brother came to Earth. Other than Raditz, other Saiyans include Vegeta, Nappa, Tarble, and those other Saiyans in that one scene in Dragon Ball Super Broly with Kid Vegeta and Kid Raditz. We never found out what happened to them. They probably died. And if you want to count half Saiyans in Dragon Ball, there's plenty of them running around like Goten, Trunks, Gohan, Future Trunks, if you want to count him. Pan is like 1/4 Saiyans, so yeah, there's plenty of half Saiyans running around. Another comparison is fusion. For Goku, he fuses with his longtime rival and ally Vegeta to become Vegito, or Vegirod if you read the Viz translation. This used to be permanent, and nowadays it's timed, which a lot of people don't like. I really didn't like it at first, and for me, it's just like an excuse for them to have fusion. That's unlimited time. But then whenever they wanted to use the excuse that it was for the Kais and that for mortals it's limited, and of course the Kais wouldn't know that. They assumed it was timed as well because it was for them. That makes sense to me, but I think they should have just kept it permanent and just used Gogeta for a limited time fusion. There's also the timed fusion Gogeta, which I just mentioned. For Superman, if you've read World's Finest recently, fuses with his longtime friend Batman. I don't think their fusion has a name, and the way they fused gets a little convoluted with the Green Lantern ring, and it takes too long to explain for this video, but all you gotta know is that's a fusion and it wears off. So both Goku and Superman have fused with their longtime allies and friends. For Goku it was Vegeta, for Superman it was Batman, which is kind of interesting because they are two iconic duos, you know, the World's Finest and Goku and Vegeta. Alright, so something else worth mentioning, and this isn't mainly to do with Superman, but both the Dragon Ball world and DC Universe have intergalactic space cops dedicated to peacekeeping throughout the galaxy. DC has the Green Lantern Corps, while Dragon Ball has the Galactic Patrol. Though from what we know, the Galactic Patrol is ran by the Galactic King, while the Green Lanterns are ran by the Guardians. For the Green Lanterns, there's supposed to be two Green Lanterns to a particular sector of space, but as you know, that kinda didn't stick. For Dragon Ball, the Galactic Patrol doesn't really have one particular sector assigned to each member. They were just in charge of patrolling the galaxy, and were more like the entire galaxy is their sector. Although there are some spots in the galaxy that their jurisdiction does not reach in the 7th universe. And the last thing I'll add is that, and this kind of goes without saying, Goku and Superman are both incredibly strong fighters who are considered by many to be the strongest of their universe. Yet, it's also being teased that their sons, John and Gohan, both have the potential to surpass them. This has only been said in DC Comics, and we have not seen John surpass Clark yet, but in Dragon Ball Superhero, we got to see Gohan surpass Goku. And we know he did because we got Piccolo to confirm it. And we also know that he knows a thing or two and has no reason to lie about that. After all, he was pretty honest with telling Gohan that he's weak. So this was part 2 of my Goku and Superman video. What did you think? I was thinking about making other videos comparing other franchises and characters to Dragon Ball. Let me know if that's something you'd enjoy. Thanks for watching. Make sure to comment if you have something to say, like the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you feel like it. I'll see you in the next one. Peace off.